I found out my wife was cheating on me because she kissed our dog goodbye but forgot to kiss me. That sounds absurd, I know. But when you've been married for 11 years, you notice the small things. The deviations from routine. The micro expressions that don't quite land. And on that Tuesday morning in March, as Jessica bent down to plant a kiss on our golden retriever Bailey's head while barely glancing in my direction before heading out the door, something in my gut twisted. "Running late," she called over her shoulder, already halfway to the garage. "Don't wait up tonight. Big project deadline." The door closed before I could respond. Through the kitchen window, I watched her BMW reverse down our driveway in Scottsdale, Arizona, the morning sun glinting off the hood. She'd been having a lot of late nights lately, a lot of big project deadlines. Jessica worked as a marketing director for a tech startup downtown, and sure, the hours could be demanding. But she'd held that position for 3 years, and only in the last 4 months had those demands apparently become so consuming. I stood there in my pajama pants, coffee mug cooling in my hand, while Bailey nudged my leg with his wet nose. The house felt too quiet, too empty. Our 7-year-old daughter Emma was already at school, dropped off early for the breakfast program Jessica had insisted on enrolling her in 2 months ago. Another recent change. My phone buzzed on the counter. A text from my brother Kyle. "Still on for golf Saturday?" I typed back a quick confirmation, but my mind was elsewhere, cataloging the other small deviations I'd been unconsciously collecting. The new lingerie I'd found in the laundry, still with tags, that she'd never worn around me. The way she'd started showering immediately after coming home instead of collapsing on the couch like she used to. How she'd changed her phone passcode from Emma's birthday to something I didn't know. "Trust but verify," my father used to say. No, scratch that. My father never said anything useful about relationships since he'd been married 4 times. But the principle stood. I needed to know for certain before I let paranoia poison what might be innocent explanations. I called in sick to work. I'm a civil engineer for a construction firm, and we were between major projects, so my absence wouldn't cause problems. Then I did something I'd never done in 11 years of marriage. I opened Jessica's laptop. She'd left it on the kitchen desk, which itself was unusual. She normally took it everywhere. My hand hesitated over the keyboard. This was a violation of privacy, of trust, of everything we'd built together. But that image of her kissing the dog while avoiding my eyes kept playing in my head like a corrupted video file. The laptop was unlocked. Another deviation. She always locked it. Unless she'd been in such a hurry this morning that she'd forgotten. My cursor hovered over her email icon, but something stopped me. Email would be too obvious, too easily sanitized. Instead, I opened her web browser history. She'd cleared it. Completely. Going back months. Nobody clears their entire browser history unless they're hiding something. My pulse quickened. I checked her downloads folder, also empty, recently wiped. But Jessica wasn't particularly tech-savvy, and she'd made a crucial mistake. She'd only cleared the browser history on her main profile. Her laptop had a secondary user account she'd created months ago for work stuff, and she'd apparently forgotten about it. I switched accounts. No password required. Just a simple user toggle. The history loaded, and my world tilted sideways. Hotel websites, lots of them. The Phoenician, the Canby, some boutique place in Old Town Scottsdale I'd never heard of. Reviews for restaurants I'd never been to with her. And then, like a punch to the throat, her email inbox on the web client she'd apparently been using to avoid the main mail app. The most recent email was from someone named Tyler Brennan. Subject line: "Last night was amazing." I didn't want to click it. Every fiber of my being screamed to close the laptop, walk away, preserve whatever blissful ignorance remained. But my hand moved on its own, the cursor clicking with a finality that felt like a door slamming shut on my old life. Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you. Same place Thursday. I'll bring the wine you liked. We need to talk about what happens next. I know this is complicated, but Jess, I'm falling for you. Hard. The email was dated yesterday. I scrolled down. Her response, sent at 6:47 a.m. this morning, probably while I was in the shower. Thursday works. We do need to talk. This is getting serious, and I can't keep living two lives. See you then. XO. Two lives. She'd summarized our entire marriage, our daughter, our home, our 11 years together as one of two lives she was living. The other life apparently belonged to Tyler Brennan. I scrolled further. Weeks of emails. Months, actually. The earliest ones dated back to November, right around Thanksgiving. They'd started professionally enough. He was apparently a vendor her company worked with. Something about digital analytics. But by December, the tone had shifted. Compliments about her presentation style became compliments about her appearance. Professional lunches became drinks after work. By January, they'd crossed whatever lines separated emotional affair from physical one. There were photos. Nothing explicit. She'd apparently had enough sense to avoid that. But pictures of them at restaurants, at a Suns game, at some hiking trail I didn't recognize. In every photo, Jessica was smiling in a way I hadn't seen directed at me in years. Bright, unguarded, alive. My phone rang, startling me so badly I nearly knocked over my cold coffee. Jessica's name flashed on the screen. I stared at it, watching it ring, wondering what she wanted, what lies she'd prepared for today. On the fourth ring, I answered. Hey! My voice sounded normal, steady, a minor miracle. Hey babe, I forgot my laptop. I'm turning around to grab it. Be there in 10 minutes. The line went dead. 10 minutes. She'd see the account was switched. She'd know I'd found everything. I looked at Bailey, who tilted his head at me with that eternal canine optimism. At least someone in this house still greeted me with unconditional love. 10 minutes to decide how to handle the end of my marriage. I made my choice. The laptop sat on the kitchen counter where I'd left it, browser still open to Jessica's alternate account. 10 minutes. Maybe less now. I stood in the garage, staring at the insurance portal still glowing on my phone screen. I'd logged in to check our auto policy rates, something about a renewal notice, when I'd noticed the life insurance tab. Just curiosity at first. We'd set those policies up years ago when Emma was born, both of us naming each other as beneficiaries. Standard married couple stuff. Except Jessica's beneficiary wasn't me anymore. The change date, February 14th. Valentine's Day. I would have laughed if my chest didn't feel like someone had parked a car on it. Beneficiary name, Tyler James Brennan. The timestamp showed 2:47 p.m. I pulled up my phone's calendar, scrolled back to February 14th. Jessica had texted me that afternoon. Running late, dentist appointment took forever. I'd been annoyed because I'd made dinner reservations. We'd had to push them back an hour. There was no dentist appointment. She'd been updating her life insurance policy to name her lover as the beneficiary. On Valentine's Day. While I was at work, probably looking at restaurant menus, trying to keep our marriage alive with overpriced steaks and a bottle of wine. The policy amount, $750,000. My hands were shaking. I screenshot the beneficiary page, the change history, the timestamp. Then I did something I'd learned from 11 years of engineering work. I documented everything, every screen, every detail. Date of birth she'd entered for Tyler, I screenshot that too. His address, which matched one of the hotels from her browser history before he'd apparently given her his real information. I emailed the screenshots to myself. Then to a secondary email account Jessica didn't know about. Then I downloaded the official policy PDF from the portal and did the same. 7 minutes now, probably. Maybe 6. The policy PDF showed more than just the beneficiary change. There was a coverage increase she'd applied for in January, from $500,000 to $750,000. It had required a health questionnaire, but no exam given her age and the modest increase. She'd signed it digitally, increased her payout by $250,000, then 2 weeks later changed the beneficiary to the man she was sleeping with. I forwarded the policy PDF to Jessica's work email. Then I called her cell. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey, I'm literally pulling onto our street. Check your work email." Silence. "What?" "Check your work email." I heard her car slow down, the turn signal clicking. She was probably pulling over. "I'm almost home. Can this wait?" "Open the email I just sent you. The one with the subject line, policy review required." More silence. Then the sound of her phone shifting, probably putting me on speaker while she checked. I waited. Counted to 10 in my head. "Oh my God." Her voice had gone thin. "How did you—" "Tyler James Brennan," I said. His full name tasted like poison. "That's who gets $750,000 if you die. Not me. Not Emma. Your vendor boyfriend." "I can explain. February 14th. You told me you were at the dentist." My voice sounded calm. Weirdly calm. Like I was reading engineering specs. "You were changing your life insurance beneficiary to a man you've been sleeping with for 4 months. On Valentine's Day. While I was making dinner reservations. Please, just let me come home and we can—" "You increased the coverage first," I continued. "January 15th. $250,000 more. Then change the beneficiary. That's not an accident, Jessica. That's planning." I could hear her breathing. Fast, shallow. "It wasn't like that. I was confused. I was emotional. I thought—" "You thought what? That you'd die and he'd get rich? Or were you planning something else?" The question came out before I'd fully formed the thought. But once it was out there, hanging in the air between us, I couldn't take it back. "Jesus Christ, no. What are you— I would never—" "Then explain it to me." I walked back into the kitchen, looked at her laptop still open on the counter. "Explain why you'd name your affair partner as your life insurance beneficiary. Explain the logic." I wasn't thinking clearly. He was talking about his future, our future, and I wanted him to know I was serious, that I was committed to— She stopped, realized what she was saying. "Committed to him," I finished. "Got it. Where's Emma?" Her voice cracked. "School. Where she's supposed to be. Where she'll stay until this conversation is over." "I'm coming home." "No." The word came out harder than I'd intended. "You're going to stay exactly where you are. You're going to call the insurance company from your car and change that beneficiary back to me. Right now, while I'm on the phone. I can't just— There's a process. Then start the process, now. Or I'm calling them myself and reporting this as fraud." "It's not fraud. I'm allowed to name whoever I want as— Under normal circumstances, sure. But you're married. Community property state. That policy was purchased with marital funds during our marriage for our family's protection. You think a court's going to look kindly on you redirecting that to your boyfriend?" I was guessing at the legal specifics, but it sounded right. "Try me." Another long silence. Then, "Fine, I'll call them." Speakerphone. I want to hear every word. I listened as she dialed, as she navigated the automated system, as she finally reached a human being. A woman named Patricia with a pleasant Midwest accent asked how she could help. "I need to change my beneficiary," Jessica said. Her voice was steady now, professional. "Back to my original designation." "Certainly, I'll need to verify some information first. Policy number?" Jessica read it off. I heard typing. "Thank you, Mrs. Brennan. I see you made a beneficiary change on February 14th of this year. You'd like to reverse that change?" "Yes, back to my husband, Daniel Brennan." More typing. I can process that for you. The change will be effective immediately upon completion of this call. However, I do need to note that this is your second beneficiary change within a 60-day period. Our system flags that for review. Jessica's breathing hitched. Review? Standard procedure. Given the coverage amount and the frequency of changes, our fraud prevention team will conduct a brief review. Nothing to worry about if everything's legitimate. They'll just verify there's no undue influence or coercion involved. I almost smiled. Almost. How long does that take? Jessica asked. Usually 5 to 7 business days. The change will still process today, but the review happens concurrently. You might receive a call from our investigations team. Again, standard procedure. Fine, whatever, just change it back. Of course, I'll need verbal confirmation. You're requesting to change your beneficiary from Tyler James Brennan back to Daniel Brennan. Is that correct? Yes. And you're making this change of your own free will without coercion or undue pressure? I held my breath. Yes, Jessica said quietly. Perfect. Processing that now. You should receive a confirmation email within the hour. Is there anything else I can help you with today? No, thank you. The call ended. For a moment, neither of us spoke. It's done, Jessica said finally. Can I come home now? Not yet. I pulled up my email, started a new message to the insurance company's fraud department. Patricia said they'd flag it for review. I'm going to help them with that review. What are you doing? Sending them the screenshots, the timeline, the hotel receipts from your browser history, the emails with Tyler where you talked about your future together. My fingers moved across the phone screen. Context. So they understand exactly what kind of undue influence was involved when you changed that beneficiary. You can't. That's private. It's fraud prevention. They need to know if someone was manipulating you into changing your policy. And someone was. Tyler, your boyfriend. Who you were sleeping with. Who you were planning a future with. Who you named as a $750,000 beneficiary. I hit send. They'll want to investigate that. This is insane. You're being… And one more thing, I said, opening a new email. Your life insurance is through your employer's group plan, right? Part of your benefits package? She went quiet. I'm looking at the policy details now. Yeah. Group term life through your company, which means your employer has an interest in this too, especially since Tyler works for one of your vendors. That's a conflict of interest, Jessica. Maybe even an ethics violation. Don't. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Please don't. You named your vendor boyfriend, someone you do business with professionally, as your life insurance beneficiary. You don't think HR would want to know about that relationship? About the potential conflicts involved? You'll ruin my career. You ruined our marriage on Valentine's Day while I was picking out wine. I heard her crying now. Soft, broken sounds. Change it back, she said. I changed the beneficiary back. Isn't that enough? No, I said. It's not. I hung up and called my brother. He answered on the first ring. I need a divorce attorney, I said. The best one you know. And I need them today. The garage door opener sat heavy in my hand. I'd been standing there for 3 minutes, thumb hovering over the button that would let Jessica pull into her usual spot beside my Civic. The spot she'd parked in for 11 years. The spot that, according to the insurance portal I'd just discovered, she'd decided belonged to someone else's future. I pressed the button. The door rumbled upward, letting in the late afternoon sun. March in Spokane meant the light came in sharp and cold. Nothing like the desert brightness I'd grown up with in Arizona. We'd moved here 2 years ago for Jessica's promotion. Regional marketing director for a cybersecurity firm that had just gone public. Good money, better benefits. Including the life insurance policy that now had Tyler Brennan's name where mine used to be. Her Subaru pulled into the driveway. Not the BMW she'd driven in Scottsdale. We'd downsized when we moved, she'd said. More practical for the weather. I watched her through the windshield, saw her check her phone one more time before cutting the engine, probably hoping Tyler had responded to whatever message she'd sent after I'd called her 40 minutes ago. She got out slowly. No briefcase today. She'd left in a hurry this morning, forgetting the laptop that had given me everything I needed. She wore the gray suit I'd always liked, the one that made her look confident and capable. The one she'd probably worn to that doctor's appointment on February 14th when she'd logged into the insurance portal and changed her beneficiary. Daniel. Her voice was steady. I'd give her that. We need to talk. We really don't. I held up my phone, showing her the screenshot I'd taken. The insurance portal, her policy details, the beneficiary change dated 02/14/2024 at 2:47 p.m. I need you to explain this, and then I need you to fix it. She stopped 3 feet away from me, close enough that I could see the foundation creasing at the corners of her eyes. She looked tired. You went through my laptop. You forgot to lock it, and you changed your life insurance beneficiary to your boyfriend. I kept my voice level. One of those things seems more relevant than the other. It's not, she closed her eyes. It's more complicated than that. Is it? I pulled up the next screenshot. Because the insurance company has a pretty simple explanation. You increased your coverage from $500,000 to $750,000 on January 8th. Then you changed the beneficiary to Tyler Brennan on Valentine's Day, while you were supposed to be at the dentist. I was at the dentist. I showed her the next image. Her calendar, synced to the laptop. Your calendar says, appointment from 2 to 3. The beneficiary change was time-stamped at 2:47. So either you have a very understanding dentist who lets you handle financial planning during a cleaning, or you lied. She looked away. I needed to do it then. I couldn't risk doing it at home, where you might see. Why would you need to do it at all? The question came out harder than I'd intended. We have a daughter. We have a mortgage. We have 11 years of building a life together. And you decided some guy you've been sleeping with for, 4 months? Deserves $750,000 if you die? It wasn't about the money. Then what was it about, Jessica? I stepped closer. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you either wanted to make sure your boyfriend was taken care of if something happened to you, or… I stopped. The other possibility had been sitting in my head since I'd first seen the beneficiary change, growing heavier with each passing minute. Or what? Her voice was quiet. Or you were making sure I had a very good motive if something happened to you. Her head snapped up. That's insane. Is it? You increase your coverage by 50%. You change the beneficiary to your affair partner. You do it all in the span of 5 weeks, right in the middle of an affair that you've been very careful to hide. And if something happened to you, accident, illness, whatever, the insurance company would investigate. They'd find the beneficiary change. They'd find Tyler. And they'd find me, the husband who got cut out of the policy right before his wife died. I would never… She was shaking her head. Daniel, I would never do that to you. You already did. I pulled up the email I'd drafted an hour ago. See, the insurance company has a fraud prevention department. They're very interested in unusual patterns, like a beneficiary change to a non-family member mid-policy year, especially when it's accompanied by a coverage increase. I sent them everything. The timeline, the affair emails, the calendar discrepancies. They're opening an investigation. The color drained from her face. You didn't. I did. And I'm sending the same documentation to your HR department. I showed her the second draft email. Because Tyler works for Data Metrics, which is a vendor for your company. I pulled the contract information from your laptop. Data Metrics provides analytics services for your marketing department, which means you've been sleeping with someone who has a direct financial relationship with your employer. That's a conflict of interest. That's probably a fireable offense. Daniel, please. I'm not done. I opened the third email. I'm also sending this to our divorce attorney. Well, my divorce attorney as of about 30 minutes ago. My brother recommended someone. She's very good, apparently. Specializes in high conflict cases where one spouse has demonstrated intent to abandon the marriage. Jessica's hand went to her mouth. Intent to abandon? That's what the attorney called it. When you change your life insurance beneficiary to your affair partner, it demonstrates clear intent to dissolve the marital partnership. Makes the divorce proceedings simpler. Less room for arguments about reconciliation or temporary problems. You literally put in writing that you'd rather have Tyler benefit from your death than your husband or your daughter. I can change it back. You're going to change it back. Right now. In front of me. I pulled up the insurance company's number on my phone. You're going to call them. You're going to request an immediate beneficiary change back to me, and you're going to do it on speaker so I can hear every word. She stared at me. And if I do that, you won't send the emails? I'll still send them, but I'll note that you corrected the beneficiary change when confronted. Might help with the fraud investigation. Might not. Either way, you're calling them now. Her hands were shaking when she took out her phone. She dialed the number I'd given her, put it on speaker. We stood in the garage, 3 feet apart, listening to the hold music. Something classical. Mozart, maybe. Seemed wrong for the moment. Thank you for calling Secure Life Insurance. This is Brandon speaking. How can I help you today? Jessica's voice was barely steady. I need to make a beneficiary change on my policy. Account number SL447288342. Certainly, Ms. Brennan. I'll need to verify some information first. Can you confirm your date of birth? She gave it. Confirmed her address. Confirmed her social security number. I watched her face the whole time, looking for something I couldn't name. Regret, maybe. Or just fear of getting caught. Thank you, Ms. Brennan. I see you made a beneficiary change on February 14th of this year. Is this regarding that change? Yes, I need to change it back. To my husband, Daniel Brennan. There was a pause. I could hear keyboard typing. I see. Ms. Brennan, I should inform you that we've received some documentation regarding your policy today. Our fraud prevention team has flagged your account for review. Jessica's eyes met mine. I understand. Any beneficiary changes made while an account is under review will be noted in the investigation file. Do you still want to proceed? Yes. More typing. All right. I'm changing the primary beneficiary on policy SL447288342 from Tyler Brennan back to Daniel Brennan, effective immediately. You should receive a confirmation email within 24 hours. Is there anything else I can help you with today? No, thank you. She ended the call. Her hand dropped to her side, phone still clutched in her fingers. There, she said. It's done. The beneficiary change is done, I corrected. Everything else is just starting. I hit send on the first email, the one to the insurance fraud department. Then the second one to her HR director. I'd found his name in her contacts, Robert Palmer, VP of Human Resources. The email laid out the timeline, attached the relevant documentation, noted the vendor relationship between Data Metrics and Jessica's employer. Daniel, please, think about Emma. I am thinking about Emma. I opened my truck door. I'm thinking about how her mother increased her life insurance and changed the beneficiary to her affair partner. I'm thinking about what kind of example that sets. I'm thinking about custody arrangements and parenting plans and making sure my daughter doesn't grow up thinking this is normal. Where are you going? To my attorney's office. We have a consultation in 45 minutes. I climbed into the truck. You should probably call Tyler. Let him know he's about to have a very interesting conversation with his employer about conflict of interest policies. I backed out of the driveway, leaving her standing in the garage. In my rearview mirror, I saw her pull out her phone. probably calling him, probably trying to figure out how to explain that her husband had just blown up both their professional lives along with their affair. My phone buzzed. A text from my brother Kyle. Attorney says she can see you at 4:30. Bring all documentation. I had it all on a thumb drive in my pocket. Every email, every calendar entry, every insurance document, the whole digital trail of Jessica's double life, organized and time-stamped and ready to present. The life insurance change was the smoking gun. Everything else was just evidence of motive. The insurance company called me first. I was in the garage, our garage, technically still our garage, though I'd started thinking of it as just mine, updating my own life insurance portal when my phone buzzed. Wednesday afternoon, 3 days after I'd forced Jessica to reverse the beneficiary change while standing in that hotel parking lot. Mr. Brennan, this is Patricia Owens from Guardian Life's Fraud Prevention Division. I minimized the browser window showing my updated policy. Emma was still listed as primary beneficiary with my brother Kyle as contingent. Simple, clean, no lovers in sight. I've been expecting your call, I said. We've completed our preliminary review of the February 14th beneficiary modification on policy ending in 4782. Her voice was professionally neutral, the kind of tone that came from years of delivering bad news without inflection. The change was submitted through the online portal at 2:47 p.m. from an IP address registered to Spokane Valley Medical Center's public Wi-Fi network. I pulled up my spreadsheet, the one I'd been building since Tuesday. She told me she had a dentist appointment that afternoon, 2:30. Our records show the dentist office is 4.2 miles from the medical center. A pause. We also noted the coverage increase from $500,000 to $750,000 was requested January 9th, approved January 16th. That modification was flagged for review due to the substantial increase without corresponding life event documentation. What qualifies as a life event? Marriage, divorce, birth of a child, home purchase, major financial changes. Papers rustled on her end. Mrs. Brennan's application cited financial planning update as the reason. No supporting documentation required for amounts under $1 million. I watched the cursor blink on my screen. So she could just ask for more coverage and then give it to whoever she wanted. Within policy parameters, yes. Patricia's tone shifted slightly. Not quite sympathy, but acknowledgement. However, the subsequent beneficiary change to a non-family member, combined with the coverage increase, and your formal complaint alleging undue influence, triggers our enhanced review protocol. What does that mean? We're interviewing Mrs. Brennan directly. We've also requested documentation of her relationship to the new beneficiary, Mr. Tyler Brennan. No relation to you based on our records. If we determine the change was made under duress, coercion, or with fraudulent intent, we can void the modification and flag the policy. I leaned back against the Subaru's hood. She already changed it back. Sunday night, I made her do it. We're aware. The reversal was submitted at 8:53 p.m. from a mobile device. IP address traced to the Marriott Residence Inn on East Sullivan Road. Another pause. Mr. Brennan, reversals don't erase the original attempt. If anything, the rapid reversal after your discovery supports your undue influence claim. So what happens now? We continue our investigation. If we find evidence of intent to defraud, particularly given the timing and coverage increase, we're obligated to report to state insurance regulators. Washington takes insurance fraud seriously. It's a Class C felony if prosecuted. I closed my eyes. I don't want her arrested. I just want the record to show what she did. Understood. Our investigation is separate from any criminal proceedings. We're focused on policy integrity. She cleared her throat. One more thing. You mentioned in your complaint that Mrs. Brennan works for Cascade Digital Solutions. and that Mr. Tyler Brennan is employed by Vertex Analytics, a vendor to her company. That's right. We've documented that relationship. If her employer conducts their own ethics investigation, our findings may be relevant. We'll preserve all records accordingly. After she hung up, I sat in the garage for another 20 minutes, staring at my updated policy. The premium had actually gone down slightly, $847 annually instead of $893. Apparently, I was a better risk than Jessica. Non-smoker, stable job, no recent attempts to redirect $750,000 to a lover. The email from Cascade Digital Solutions HR Director arrived Thursday morning. Subject: Ethics concern. Employee conduct investigation. Mr. Brennan, thank you for bringing this matter to our attention. Per company policy regarding vendor relationships and conflicts of interest, we've initiated a formal investigation into the allegations concerning Jessica Brennan, Regional Marketing Director, and Tyler Brennan, Vendor Associate, Vertex Analytics. Our preliminary review confirms: 1. Ms. Brennan approved 3 contracts with Vertex Analytics between November and February, totaling $340,000 in analytic services. 2. Ms. Brennan did not disclose a personal relationship with any Vertex Analytics employees on her annual Conflict of Interest certification, filed January 5th. 3. Ms. Brennan's role includes vendor selection authority within her budget parameters. We take these matters seriously. Ms. Brennan has been placed on administrative leave pending investigation completion. We've also suspended all active contracts with Vertex Analytics and initiated a third-party audit of the procurement process. You will not receive further updates due to employee privacy policies, but we wanted to confirm receipt of your documentation and our action steps. Regards, Denise Walsh, Director, Human Resources, Cascade Digital Solutions. I forwarded the email to my attorney, Greg Patterson, a divorce specialist Kyle had recommended. Not the cheapest, but Kyle said he was thorough. Didn't waste time on dramatic speeches about justice and betrayal. Just filed paperwork and got results. Greg called within the hour. "This is excellent," he said, without preamble. "The insurance beneficiary change especially. Washington is a community property state, but this demonstrates intent to divert marital assets. It's not just infidelity, it's financial misconduct. The insurance company said they're investigating fraud. Even better, I'm filing tomorrow. Dissolution of marriage, citing irreconcilable differences, standard language. But I'm also including a motion for temporary restraint on all financial accounts and policies. She doesn't get to make any major financial decisions while this is pending. How long will it take? 90-day waiting period minimum in Washington, but realistically, 6 to 8 months if she contests, which she will. Could be faster if she wants to settle." He paused. The life insurance policy, the HR investigation, the vendor contracts, this all points to abandonment of the marriage. Not legally, but practically. It shows she was planning a future that didn't include you. That's what I thought. I was in the garage again. I'd spent a lot of time there lately. Bailey had taken to following me, lying near the workbench while I updated spreadsheets and reviewed documents. What about Emma? Custody will be the hard part. Washington presumes 50-50 unless there's cause otherwise. The affair doesn't automatically disqualify her as a parent. I know. But the financial stuff, the ethics violation at work, the insurance fraud investigation, it all paints a picture of judgment issues. We'll use it. Papers shuffled. I'm requesting primary residential custody with you. Reasonable visitation for her. We'll see what the mediator says. After he hung up, I pulled up the policy PDF again. The one I'd emailed to Jessica's phone Sunday afternoon. The one that interrupted her meeting with Tyler. I'd bolded the beneficiary line before sending it. Primary beneficiary, Tyler Brennan, non-spouse. She'd called me 16 times that evening. I'd answered once, just long enough to tell her I'd be waiting at the Marriott parking lot, and she had until 9 p.m. to change it back, or I was filing a police report for identity theft and fraud. She'd shown up at 8:30, laptop in hand, and reversed the change while I watched over her shoulder. Didn't say a word, just typed, clicked, submitted. The confirmation email arrived on both our phones simultaneously. Beneficiary update. Processed. Primary beneficiary, Daniel Brennan, spouse. Then she'd closed the laptop and looked at me. It wasn't what you think? You made your lover the beneficiary on a $750,000 policy you just increased. What am I supposed to think? I wasn't going to. She stopped. I just wanted him to know I was serious. About us. So you gave him $750,000 reasons to hope I'd die in a car accident? Jesus, Daniel. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? But she didn't answer. Just got in her BMW and drove away. Now, Thursday afternoon, I had confirmation she was on administrative leave. The insurance company was investigating fraud. The divorce petition would be filed tomorrow. And I was sitting in the garage, updating beneficiaries like it was just another item on a to-do list. Bailey nudged my hand with her wet nose. Yeah, girl, I said. I know. My phone buzzed. Text from Jessica. We need to talk about Emma. She's asking questions. I stared at the message for a full minute before responding. Have your attorney contact mine. Greg Patterson at Patterson & Associates. 3 dots appeared, pulsed, disappeared, appeared again. You're really doing this. You did this, I typed back. I'm just finishing it. The dots appeared one more time, then vanished. I went back to my insurance portal, downloaded the updated policy PDF, and saved it in the folder I'd labeled Divorce Evidence. It sat between the email chains I'd printed and the screenshots of her browser history. 47 documents total. Each one a small piece of the life she'd been building without me. The policy was dated today, March 23rd. Primary beneficiary, Emma Brennan, daughter. Contingent, Kyle Brennan, brother. Coverage, $500,000. Premium, $847 annually. No lovers, no surprises, no Valentine's Day betrayals. Just insurance, the way it was supposed to work. Protection for the people who'd still be there when everything else fell apart. I closed the laptop and headed inside. Emma would be home from school in an hour, and I'd promised to help with her science project. Something about the water cycle, evaporation, condensation, precipitation, how things changed form but never really disappeared, seemed appropriate. The email arrived at 3:47 p.m. on Thursday, 2 days after I'd filed the insurance fraud complaint. Subject line, Policy Review Findings, Action Required. I was in my home office reviewing structural calculations for a mixed-use development in Tempe when the notification popped up. Bailey lifted his head from where he'd been napping under my desk, sensing the shift in my posture. Dear Mr. Brennan, thank you for bringing policy LF884739 to our attention. After reviewing the beneficiary change request submitted on February 14th, we have identified several irregularities that warrant further investigation. The change was processed through our online portal at 2:17 p.m. using your wife's login credentials. However, our security audit reveals the IP address originated from a location in Spokane, Washington, specifically a residential address registered to Tyler Brennan. Spokane. Tyler lived in Spokane. I read it again, slower this time. Jessica had been in Phoenix on Valentine's Day. I remembered because she'd texted me that afternoon about picking up Emma from ballet, a 3:30 p.m. pickup, which meant she'd been local, not traveling for work. Our investigation indicates Mr. Brennan may have accessed your wife's account without authorization to make this change. This constitutes identity theft and insurance fraud under Washington state law, RCW 4830-230. We have forwarded this matter to our Special Investigations Unit and will be filing a report with the Washington State Office of the Insurance Commissioner. The beneficiary change has been reversed to your name as of this morning. Your wife's account has been flagged for additional security measures. I sat back in my chair, the leather creaking. Tyler had made the change. Not Jessica. My phone buzzed. Greg Patterson, my attorney. You see the email from Mutual Trust? He asked without preamble. Just read it. This changes things. If Tyler accessed her account without permission, Jessica might not have known about the beneficiary change at all. She gave him her login credentials, I said. That's still complicity. Maybe. Or he shoulder-surfed her password. Or she left herself logged in on a shared device. Greg's tone was careful, lawyer cautious. Did you ask her about it during your confrontation? I thought back to Monday evening, to Jessica's face when I'd called her at work with the policy PDF on her screen. She'd been shocked. Yes. But shocked at being caught? Or shocked at discovering what Tyler had done? She didn't deny it, I said. She just kept saying she'd fix it. That's not the same as admitting she made the change. A pause. Daniel, I need you to consider something. If Tyler did this without her knowledge, it suggests a level of manipulation that might actually work in your favor for custody. It shows he's dangerous, and her judgment in getting involved with him is questionable, but it also means Jessica might not be the primary bad actor here. I pulled up the email thread I'd found on her laptop, scrolling to Tyler's messages from mid-February. There, February 15th, the day after the beneficiary change. Everything's set now. You're really mine, and I'm really yours. No more halfway measures. Jessica's response, what do you mean, everything's set? You'll see, trust me. She'd sent back 3 question marks, then nothing. The next message in the thread was from February 18th, Tyler saying he'd explain everything when they met that weekend. I forwarded the exchange to Greg. Look at this, she didn't know what he'd done. 30 seconds later, that's good for her, bad for him, very bad. By Friday morning, the situation had metastasized. Jessica's HR director, a woman named Patricia Novak, called me directly. Mr. Brennan, I want to thank you for bringing the contract irregularities to our attention. Our internal audit has uncovered some additional concerns. I put her on speaker, pulling out a legal pad. What kind of concerns? The $340,000 in contracts your wife approved for Vertex Analytics, Tyler Brennan's company, weren't the only transactions. We found another $180,000 in consulting fees paid out over the past 3 months. The invoices are vague. Strategic digital optimization. Market penetration analysis. Nothing with concrete deliverables. You think he was billing for services he never provided? We think your wife was approving payments without proper oversight. Whether she knew the services were phantom, or whether she was simply not doing her due diligence because of the personal relationship, we're still determining. Patricia's voice was crisp, professional. Either way, it's a serious breach of fiduciary duty. We're expanding the investigation and have retained an external forensic accounting firm. What does that mean for Jessica's employment? The administrative leave continues. If the forensic audit finds intentional fraud, we'll have no choice but to terminate and potentially pursue civil recovery. If it's negligence due to the affair clouding her judgment, the board will decide on appropriate disciplinary action. After she hung up, I sat staring at the legal pad where I'd written $520K total. Fraud or negligence? My phone buzzed. Jessica. We need to talk, not about us, about Tyler. I stared at the message for a full minute before responding. What about him? He's been calling me, angry, saying I ruined everything by reversing the beneficiary change. He's saying things that scare me. What things? Three dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. He said I owed him, that he'd invested in our future and I was backing out. He mentioned the life insurance specifically, said it was supposed to be our security after you were gone. The garage felt very cold suddenly, after I was gone. Are you saying he was planning something? I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. But Daniel, I never changed that beneficiary. I swear. I didn't even know about it until you called me Monday. The insurance company confirmed he accessed your account from his address in Spokane. A long pause. He asked for my login info in January, said he wanted to help me review our policies because he worked in analytics and could spot coverage gaps. I thought he was being helpful. I typed and deleted several responses before settling on. Forward me everything he sent since Monday. Already did. Check your email. I opened my inbox. 17 messages from Tyler to Jessica, forwarded as a single thread. The tone progressed from confused to angry to threatening over the span of 4 days. February 14th. Took care of something important today. You'll thank me later. Monday, after my confrontation. Why did you reverse it? We talked about this. We talked about building a life together. Tuesday. You're making a huge mistake. I put everything on the line for you. Wednesday. The contracts, the insurance, all of it. I did it for us. You can't just walk away. Thursday. You owe me $520,000 in lost opportunity. I left my wife for you. I restructured my entire business around your company's contracts. You don't get to just pull the plug. Friday, this morning. If you think I'm going away quietly, you're wrong. I have documentation of everything, every hotel room, every lie you told Daniel. I can destroy you, Jessica. Don't test me. I forwarded the entire thread to Greg, then to Patricia Novak, then, after a moment's hesitation, to Detective Mark Lawson at Scottsdale PD, who'd given me his card when I'd filed the initial fraud report. Lawson called back within 20 minutes. Mr. Brennan, these messages constitute criminal harassment under Arizona law and possibly extortion. The reference to after you were gone, in conjunction with the life insurance beneficiary change, is particularly concerning. I'm going to need to speak with your wife directly. She's willing to cooperate. Good. I'm also going to reach out to Spokane PD. If Tyler Brennan accessed her insurance account without authorization from Washington, that's their jurisdiction for the identity theft charge. But the threats are happening here, directed at an Arizona resident. A pause. Mr. Brennan, I want you to take some precautions. Does Tyler know your home address? I don't know. Assume he does. I'm going to have a patrol unit swing by your house a few times over the next couple days. If you see him or his vehicle, do you know what he drives? No. I'll find out and send you a photo. If you see him, call 911 immediately. Don't engage. After he hung up, I walked through the house, checking locks on doors and windows. Bailey followed me, tail wagging, thinking it was a game. When I reached Emma's room, I stopped in the doorway. She was at my mother's house for the weekend, a trip planned weeks ago, before everything imploded. I'd told her mommy and daddy needed to handle some grown-up business. She'd accepted it with the easy resilience of 7-year-olds, more concerned about whether grandma would make chocolate chip pancakes. My phone buzzed again. Greg. Just read Tyler's messages. We need to file for a restraining order immediately, for both you and Jessica. I'm drafting the petition now. Can you come to my office at 4? I'll be there. One more message. This one from Jessica. I'm so sorry. I never thought he was like this. I never thought any of this would happen. I didn't respond. Sorry didn't cover it, not the affair, not the contracts, not the fact that she'd handed her insurance login to a man who'd apparently fantasized about my death. But as I stood in Emma's doorway, looking at her neatly made bed and the stuffed animals arranged on her pillow, I realized Greg had been right about one thing. Jessica might not be the primary bad actor here. She was just the one who'd opened the door and let him in. The email from my insurance agent arrived at 7:43 a.m. on a Thursday, 2 weeks after I'd filed the fraud complaint. Subject: Policy review required. Beneficiary change investigation. I opened it standing in the garage, coffee in hand, Bailey circling my feet. The garage had become my office during this nightmare, neutral territory where Jessica's presence didn't linger in every corner. Mr. Brennan, our fraud prevention team has completed the preliminary investigation into the unauthorized beneficiary change on policy L8473992WA. We've confirmed the change originated from an IP address in Spokane, Washington, 98-176-4291, on February 14th at 2:47 p.m. This IP is registered to a residential address at 1847 Maple Ridge Drive, Spokane, not associated with your household. We're forwarding our findings to law enforcement per standard protocol. Additionally, we need to discuss some irregularities we discovered during our review of Mrs. Brennan's policy application from January 15th. Please call me at your earliest convenience. Best regards, Patricia Wolf, Senior Fraud Investigator, Pacific Northwest Mutual. Irregularities in the application. I read that line 3 times. The coverage increase from $500K to $750K had happened 6 weeks before Tyler changed the beneficiary. Jessica had mentioned needing to update our policies during a dinner conversation, something about her HR department recommending higher coverage for executives. I'd nodded, distracted by Emma's homework struggles at the other end of the table. I hadn't questioned it. Why would I? I called Patricia Wolf at 8:02 a.m. Mr. Brennan, thank you for calling back so quickly. Her voice carried the practiced calm of someone who delivered bad news professionally. I need to walk you through what we found in the January application. I'm listening. The coverage increase application was submitted online through your wife's employee portal on January 15th at 11:23 a.m. Standard process. Her employer sponsors the group policy, so increases up to certain thresholds don't require medical underwriting. Just health attestation questions. I set my coffee down on the workbench. Okay. The application shows she answered no to all health risk questions. No smoking, no high blood pressure, no family history of heart disease or cancer. Standard stuff. Patricia paused. But her medical records tell a different story. My pulse quickened. What medical records? We requested them as part of the fraud investigation. Mr. Brennan, your wife was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer on December 18th. She began chemotherapy on January 3rd at Sacred Heart Medical Center in Spokane. The garage tilted slightly. I gripped the workbench edge. That's not possible, she would have told me. Even as I said it, I knew how absurd it sounded. The woman who'd changed her life insurance beneficiary to her lover's name hadn't told me about cancer either. I understand this is difficult, Patricia continued, but the timeline is concerning from an underwriting perspective. She received a cancer diagnosis, started treatment, then applied for a 50% coverage increase 3 weeks later without disclosing the diagnosis. That's material misrepresentation. You're saying the policy isn't valid? I'm saying we have grounds to rescind the coverage increase and potentially the entire policy, depending on what our legal team determines. But there's another issue. She hesitated. The medical records show her oncologist's office is in Spokane. Her treatment facility is in Spokane. Her pharmacy records show prescriptions filled at a Spokane Walgreens. We live in Scottsdale. Exactly. Which raises questions about where your wife has actually been residing. The policy is written for a Washington state resident, but if she's been primarily living in Arizona... I closed my eyes. The pieces were assembling themselves into a picture I didn't want to see. How long has she been in Spokane? According to the medical records, she established care there in November. Her patient intake forms list a Spokane address as her primary residence. 2319 Riverside Avenue, apartment 4B. Tyler's apartment. It had to be. Mr. Brennan, I need to ask, were you aware your wife was maintaining a separate residence in Washington? No. And you had no knowledge of her cancer diagnosis? None. My voice sounded hollow, distant. We're in the middle of divorce proceedings. She's been living at her sister's place in Phoenix since I confronted her about the affair. I see. Patricia's tone shifted slightly, professional sympathy creeping in. I'm sorry. This is clearly a complex situation. Our legal team will need to determine next steps on the policy itself, but the fraud investigation findings will be forwarded to Spokane PD regardless. The unauthorized beneficiary change is still a criminal matter. After we hung up, I stood in the garage for 10 minutes, staring at nothing. Cancer. Jessica had cancer and had been living in Spokane with Tyler while undergoing chemotherapy. She'd increased her life insurance coverage while concealing a cancer diagnosis. Then someone, Tyler, had changed the beneficiary to himself. The $520K Tyler had mentioned in his threatening texts suddenly made more sense. Not just the contracts, the insurance payout too. $750K policy, minus whatever he thought he deserved for taking care of her during treatment. I pulled up my phone and called Greg Patterson. Daniel, I was just about to call you. We got the subpoenaed phone records back from Jessica's carrier. She has cancer. Silence on the other end. Then, what? I explained what Patricia Wolf had told me. Greg listened without interrupting, which I'd learned meant he was taking notes. Stage 2 breast cancer, he said when I finished. Diagnosed in December, treatment starting in January, and she didn't tell you. She was living in Spokane. The insurance investigator found medical records listing Tyler's address as her primary residence. Jesus, Greg exhaled slowly. Okay, this changes the divorce strategy significantly. Washington is a community property state, Arizona is too. If she's been maintaining a separate household in another state using marital assets, can we use this? The insurance fraud, the hidden residence, the medical records she concealed? Absolutely. It goes to character, credibility, and financial misconduct. Plus, if she was using marital funds to maintain that Spokane apartment while lying about her whereabouts. He paused. Daniel, I need to ask a difficult question. Did you have any indications she was sick? Any physical signs you missed? I thought back to the past few months. The late nights I'd attributed to work. The weekend conferences in Seattle. The new lingerie I'd thought was for Tyler. She lost weight, I said slowly. Maybe 15 pounds since Christmas. I thought she'd joined a gym. Hair loss? Fatigue? She started wearing more scarves. Told me it was a fashion thing. The memory felt like swallowing glass. And she was tired a lot, but she said the startup was demanding. Long hours. Chemotherapy side effects, Greg said quietly. She was hiding treatment. Why wouldn't she tell me? Even if she was having an affair, even if she wanted out of the marriage, you don't hide cancer from your spouse. Unless telling you would have complicated whatever plans she and Tyler had in place. Greg's voice hardened into lawyer mode. Think about it. She increases her life insurance while concealing a cancer diagnosis. Tyler changes the beneficiary to himself. He's demanding $520K in his threatening messages. This wasn't just an affair, Daniel. This was a financial scheme. You think they plan to let the cancer kill her and collect the insurance? Or worse, if Tyler thought she might beat it, that $750K payout becomes a lot less certain. He let that hang in the air. The Spokane PD needs to see these medical records today. I forwarded Patricia Wolf's email to Greg, Then called Detective Ramirez in Spokane, the officer who'd taken my initial report about Tyler's threatening messages. She answered on the second ring. "Mr. Brennan, I was planning to reach out this afternoon. We've been monitoring Tyler Brennan's digital activity per the protective order request." "He's not related to me," I said automatically. "Different Brennan." "Right, sorry. Tyler Garrett. We've been monitoring his activity, and there are some developments you should know about." My stomach tightened. "What kind of developments?" "He purchased a one-way ticket to Phoenix yesterday. Southwest Flight 1847, arriving at Sky Harbor at 11:35 p.m. tonight." The garage suddenly felt very small. "He's coming here." "Appears that way. We don't have grounds to prevent him from traveling, but given the threatening messages and the insurance fraud investigation, we wanted to alert you. I'd recommend staying somewhere else tonight." "Do you have family in the area?" "My brother's in Tempe." My mind was racing. "What about Jessica? Does she know?" "We attempted to contact her at the Phoenix address you provided, but there was no answer. Left a message advising her to call us immediately." After I hung up, I stood in the garage with my phone in my hand, trying to decide what to do first. Warn Jessica? Get Emma to safety? Call my brother? Bailey whined at my feet, sensing my anxiety. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "See you soon, Daniel. We need to talk about what Jessica owes me." Face to face. Tyler never made it to Phoenix. Spokane PD arrested him at the airport gate 40 minutes before boarding. Detective Ramirez called me at 9:17 p.m. to deliver the news. They'd executed a warrant based on the insurance fraud evidence and found something else entirely when they searched his apartment. Documents, spreadsheets, a whole financial plan built on Jessica's death. The cancer diagnosis had been real. The chemotherapy had been real. But Tyler's intentions had been something else entirely. He had research, Ramirez told me, her voice tight with controlled anger. Printed articles about chemotherapy complications, infection risks, ways treatment could go wrong, and a life insurance policy calculator showing different payout scenarios based on time of death. I sat down heavily on the garage workbench. He was going to kill her. We believe he was planning to, yes. Whether by interfering with her treatment or causing an infection during her immunocompromised state, we're still building the case. But Mr. Brennan, your wife had no idea. We interviewed her this afternoon. She thought he loved her. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday in October, 7 months after I discovered the affair. Jessica signed the papers in her attorney's office while I signed them in Greg's. We didn't speak. The settlement was straightforward. I got primary custody of Emma, the house in Scottsdale, and my retirement accounts. Jessica got her car, half the savings, and every other weekend with our daughter. The life insurance policies were divided. She kept hers, I kept mine, and we named Emma as beneficiary on both. No more Tyler. No more surprises. The cancer went into remission in August. Jessica moved back to Phoenix, took a job with a smaller marketing firm that didn't ask too many questions about the gap in her employment. Cascade Digital Solutions had fired her in May after the forensic audit revealed $340,000 in payments to Tyler's company for services never rendered. They didn't press charges, bad publicity, but her career in tech was effectively over. Tyler was charged with insurance fraud, identity theft, computer crimes, and attempted murder. The attempted murder charge came from evidence that he'd been diluting Jessica's chemotherapy medications, trying to make her sicker, trying to ensure the cancer would kill her before she could change the beneficiary back. His trial was set for next spring. I wouldn't be attending. Emma adjusted better than I expected. Kids are resilient in ways adults forget how to be. She stayed with me during the week, went to Jessica every other weekend, and slowly stopped asking when mommy was coming home. The new normal became just normal. I changed jobs in September, Took a position with a firm in Denver. Fresh start, different desert, mountains instead of cacti. Emma was excited about the snow. Jessica agreed to the relocation after I offered to cover all her travel costs for visitation. On our last night in Scottsdale, I stood in the garage one final time. The moving truck was packed. The house was empty. Bailey sat at my feet, tail wagging, ready for whatever came next. My phone buzzed. Text from Jessica. Tell Emma I love her. Have a safe drive. I typed back, will do. Then, after a pause, I hope you're okay. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, I'm getting there. You? Same. That was the truth of it. Not healed, not whole, but getting there. One day at a time, 1 mile at a time, one moment of not thinking about life insurance policies and beneficiary changes, and the woman who'd kissed the dog goodbye but forgotten to kiss me. The moral of the story, if there is one, isn't about trust or betrayal or even love. It's simpler than that. Pay attention to the small things, the deviations from routine, the moments when something feels off, even if you can't explain why. That Tuesday morning in March, Jessica kissed Bailey and forgot to kiss me. It was a small thing, easy to dismiss, but small things are rarely just small things. They're symptoms of larger truths we're not ready to see. I saw it. I paid attention. And that attention saved my life, saved Emma's future, and maybe even saved Jessica from a man who'd planned her death with the same care most people plan vacations. We're all writing our own life insurance policies, in a way. Deciding who we trust with our futures. Who we name as beneficiaries of our time, our love, our vulnerability. The trick is making sure those people actually deserve what we're giving them. Jessica learned that lesson the hard way. So did I. But we learned it. And sometimes, in the wreckage of everything you thought you knew, that's enough. I sold the house to a young couple with a toddler and a golden retriever puppy. They loved the garage, the backyard, the neighborhood with good schools. I didn't tell them what had happened there. They didn't need my ghosts. Emma and I drove to Denver on a Sunday, Bailey in the back seat, our entire life packed into a moving truck somewhere behind us on I-25. She fell asleep near the New Mexico border, her head against the window, while I drove through the desert one last time. My phone sat silent in the cup holder. No threatening texts, no insurance investigators, no attorneys with updates. Just quiet highway and the road ahead. In the rearview mirror, Arizona disappeared into dust and distance. In front of me, Colorado rose up in purple mountains and possibility. I didn't know what came next. But I knew who I was driving toward it with. My daughter, my dog, and a life insurance policy with exactly the right name on it. That was enough. That was everything.